everyone. Happy Sunday evening. Oops, that's a little bit wonky over there. I just wanted to jump on and say hi. And I also want to talk about this thing with regards to judgment. So, amazingly, I'd actually written this post well before the Judgment Detox came out, but I figure it's pretty timely right now, given that that's going on as well. So, also, this kind of came up today for me, so just wanted to give a little touch base on it. So if you follow me on Instagram or you take a look at any of my posts, a lot of the time something I say is to notice your judgment without judgment. And so the question is, what does that mean? And what it means for me is probably different than what it means for you or for the next person. Basically, what it means for me is to notice judgment with curiosity. So it's to meet any of your judgments with a lens of curiosity. And that, for me, means that I pause and I notice that judgment and then I start asking questions about it. So it can happen in so many different ways, so many different things, and I guess I'll just dive into a quick little example with regards to sugar. So for the month of January, I decided to do this thing called Blanduary. And it started off with this, I'm going to do sort of similar to a macrobiotic diet, which I didn't research, and then I was going to kind of basically mimic the Buddha bar at Kripalu. So it's brown rice, steamed vegetables, little to no anything else, maybe a little bit of like tamari, some miso paste, but pretty bland food. Basically think like a simple Buddha bowl, which I was very happy and content to do, but it kind of fizzled into something that was a lot more attainable with my lifestyle. And that is going to, or that has been, no added sugar, no dairy, which is normally minimal in my life, and then also just sort of as clean as I possibly can. So and to me, clean means as close to the natural form as possible. So overall, pretty simple, clean food that I'm used to having. But of course, life gets in the way and things happen, and this is normal, and we're coming close to the end of January, and a lot of people set their intentions and their resolutions, whatever you want to call them, for January as the start of the calendar year, and everyone has different touch points along the way that they choose to use, but there's a pretty common thread about January 1st being a fresh start. Especially after the holiday season, it gets a little bit bonky in there. So I jumped along for that as well. Now, today was one of those days where I was out of the house for a good chunk of the day, so we had a pretty yummy breakfast. I did frittata. So one of my coworkers has backyard chicken, so I'm really lucky that I get really high quality eggs from him, but that's just a personal choice. So I did a frittata with some cashew milk, which is my favorite, and then some veggies, because that's what I had in the fridge. And worked out really well, by the way. Plate on top of cast iron frying pan, no need to put it in the oven, easy peasy. But back to the point of all of this. Then I was heading out to go visit a friend's new baby, and then another friend at their new house, and then I was basically going to be in the car for a chunk of the day, and was really hungry in the interim. So we got out to my friend's place, the first one, And they had all the snacks and everything out. And yes, I probably should have planned a little bit more ahead of myself, but I didn't. And so I took a look at the food spread and noticed what was available and what options I had. And really what it came down to for me was what on this food spread will make me feel the best about myself and about putting something reasonable and decent into my body, because really what that comes down to for me, this whole Blanduary thing or this whole no sugar added thing isn't about the restriction. It's about making sure that my body feels nourished and I feel like I am feeding myself really high quality food. And so it's not a restriction thing, it's more I really just want to focus on having some like resetting, healing foods going on in my body. So the choices that I made, I'm super comfortable with, but there is that thought process that goes in where it's like, well, this has dairy in it, and this has processed corn in it, and this has that in it, and this is that in it. And so it's just that moment. And for me, it really is a moment. And for a lot of people, it's a lot more than a moment. And don't worry about it. This is a practice. And so it's really just, where do you start? And you notice. And so you get to that thing, you get to that event, and you look at the spread or you look at whatever's happening, and you just ask yourself the question of like, what will make me feel good? What do I want to eat out of this? And if that cupcake, or as the 2-year-old was saying, he was calling the cupcakes party muffins because they were in the muffin tin. And in a 2-year-old's mind, obviously, only muffins go in the muffin tin. And so they can't be cupcakes. They have to be party muffins, which is just adorable. So looked at those and kind of, like, just at the point of not even questioning myself about those. They're not something that I would be choosing to eat in this particular stage. But for a lot of, and I'm telling you that because I want you to know that it's totally possible to get to that stage. Because that's not me normally. Like, really solid sweet tooth going on over here. Or like many sweet teeth. So it's possible. So you look at the spread, you take a look at what's going on, and you pause immediately and you ask yourself, what in this spread is going to make me feel really good when I eat it? What do I feel like I am nourishing my body with? And sometimes that's the lesser of many evils. Sometimes, and food's not evil, it's not what I mean. Love food, please, love food. But think about food as loving yourself. It's not just there. It's there for your enjoyment, and it's there for you to show yourself love. Anyway, other tangent. So you take a look, you notice, see what's going on. And then you decide what you want to eat. And sometimes that means that you eat the thing that you're like, you know what, I said I wasn't going to eat that. And here's where it gets good. You notice it. And then you start to ask yourself the questions. And you start to ask yourself what thoughts or what lack of thought brought you to the moment. What were you feeling before you started to eat whatever it happened to be? And then question, what are you feeling now? Does that feel good in your body? And it's not about what's happening in your mind. So your mind will do a lot of things, and your mind is going to go spinning off into judgment land. It will. It's just what it does. This is about shifting the focus from the spinny of the mind into how does it feel in your body? Is your stomach feeling really happy about what you just ate? Or whatever it happens to be. Or is your stomach all in knots and not happening? And that happens when you judge people too. So if you're not just judging yourself, but if you're placing a judgment upon somebody else, if you check in with your body, that's another key thing. So you notice, wait a second, my stomach's in knots or my throat is really tight. And you start to notice where in your body you feel judgment. So it's really important to link where you feel it physically with what's happening in your mind or what has come out of your mouth. Okay? Then ask yourself, what are you seeking? So what kind of judgment, whatever it happens to be, what sort of validation or what sort of response back are you seeking for you? And if it's some validation or some love or some compassion or some understanding, give it to yourself. Give yourself a big old love hug, whatever that looks like for you. Then what do you notice about the judgment? What do you notice about the habit of whatever that judgment is? And so again, for the food example, a lot of the times it's something like we start off unconscious. So you're at a party and you don't survey the table and you're just like, oh, that thing is the thing that I eat. And so I'm just going to eat that because that's what's happening right now. And so you notice about the habit. Notice the circumstances around the habit, how you're feeling around the habit, what you notice in your body about the habit, your reaction to the habit afterwards. And then start to come back into the present moment. So pull yourself really deeply into the present moment. What do you notice about the room around you? What do you notice about the tastes in your mouth? What do you notice about what's happening in your mind? Do you notice if you're eating out of pleasure or out of sadness, out of lack, out of loneliness? What are the feelings around it? What are the experiences that you're having? Same thing with judgment in other ways. So if you see somebody walking down the street and you judge them by their appearance, it's the same situation. You come back to the current moment. You come back to what's happening around you. You come back to what senses you are aware of. So maybe not taste, but smell, sight, sound, anything that pulls you into your own body. And then you also notice, what are the habits? Where are the senses of sadness or lack or loneliness? Or is it bonding with somebody? Is it trying to impress someone? Are you gossiping about somebody or saying something that you would normally not want to say about someone because you're trying to bond or impress someone who you look up to or you want to have on your side? Or you feel you want to have a camaraderie with them. So that's something too. And so it really helps, I guess the foundation of all of this, what I'm really trying to push, or not push, don't push things on you. What I'm really trying to get across here is that it's so much about getting out of the spinny mind, because immediately when you notice it, your mind is going to jump into the judgment of the judgment and the judgment of you about the judgment. And so really what it comes back to is what's happening in the present moment, and then get curious about it. So bring yourself into your body, bring yourself into your senses, and then just notice and ask really wide open questions and begin to learn from that. And again, this is a practice. This whole life is a practice. And so it's so important to give yourself that compassion and to give yourself that love, because that is what is going to keep you moving forward. And that is what's going to keep you going when you think that you have fallen off the wagon. And so it's not about falling off the wagon. the next moment. It's not even the next day. The next moment, you get to make a new choice. And the very next moment, you get to make a new choice. And so even if in the first moment you went off spinning into a judgmental whirlwind, that's okay. Because the moment you notice it, you can get back into the questioning and the consciousness and the awareness of what's happening. Okay? It's really just all about that big old self-love. So easy. If only. So there it is, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. This will be on my site forever until I look at it and realize that I'm ready to update it with something else. Happy Sunday. Have a great Monday. And give yourself a little love. Take care.